we tighten the table up and get it in position, this is just a quick method of doing this. We make sure that the blade is sitting parallel with the slot on the table. Because if the blade was twisted out and it was like this, and the table is in the wrong position. So we make sure that the table is sitting in the correct. And what we've done, just a quick way, we've put a magnet on the behind the set of the teeth, and then a datum ruler or a straight ruler to make sure that it's that. And if it's not, we've loosened the table. We could be like that. Can you pick that up on the camera?
Yes.
So what we do is we make sure that the table is sitting square. The blade, sorry, is sitting square to the slot as we do it. As we do that, so it's sitting nice and square. So when the timber runs through the blade and everything's lined up to the slots, we're going through the blade and not across the blade, either way. If we go across the blade, when we're trapping it between the fence and the blade, we're going to wear the set on the teeth on one side. So after a few cuts, this side then becomes the stronger side. So when we try to do the free work and follow a line, the blade will pull away from the timber and make it look like you're cutting at an angle. There's 2 bolts on the trunnion, and then there's 4 bolts that hold the table on. If we just leave them loose to start with, get the table in position and then lock them in place, and that is the table set up. And this is why it's important when we do move when we move bandsaws around. We've got the wheel kit on that one, we've got the wheel kit available for this one, because the other easier option to move a bandsaw is you get hold of the table and you pull it along the floor. But then what you forget, if you've moved the table slightly when you do that, then you're going to offset all the work that you've done to. I would consider this part of the operation one of the most important parts, because if you don't get this right to start with, you're going to have issues all the way through. Even though you set the fence right to the slot there, to the slot there, everything's to one side or the other. If we get this right to start with before we put the fence on, then this is the datum that we work to. So what we've done with this one is we can work to the right hand side. We can work to the right hand side of the bandsaw as well as the left hand side. So we can go right up to the fence on the right hand side. And then the main thing is, and I'll show you how to go to the right of it in a minute, is the adjustment, because we want to make sure that this fence is running parallel with the slot on the table. Okay? And also the bar, and when you're putting the bar on, this needs to be running parallel with the table. So the fine adjustments on the bar are there, with a locking nut there at the front and at this side, and there's a nut at the back. So if the bar was an angle one way or the other, we can fine adjust by unscrewing that, screwing that in, and bringing the bar out, and then measuring this distance and this distance to make sure that's running parallel. Then we can put this in, and then the fine adjustment on here is we loosen off on the actual fence at this side. So we loosen off there, and this is cammed. So as we loosen off there and turn this, you'll see the fence come into position. So what we do is we find it on the slot, and we just run his finger along there, and we cam it so that it fits nice and snug before we lock it back off. And just double check again to make sure. So that's the cam action on there. Once it's in place, we can lock that off. But what you can do as well, because if we're up to the blade, but we've got some finer work and we have to bring the guides down, obviously then the fence doesn't go up to the blade. So there's 2 options. We do a shorter fence that you can buy as an accessory if you want to do that, or if you loosen this off and slide that out, what you can do is slide that in that position there, so that you can go under it and bring the guard right down for the smaller work to push through. But also, if we want to work from this side of the fence, I'll just walk in front of you a second. We can loosen this off. Turn that around and use it from this side. So we can put the fence back on in this position. Lock up, check the cam is working, it's squared up. And then the advantage of that is when we come to do some angle work, what you're doing then is you're supporting the work from this side, so that it allows you to sit the fence on there, sit the timber on there and cut across, supporting the work on this side. If you did it the other way, we had the fence on this side, the wood is coming away from the fence, so it's giving you extra support, so giving you a spare hand really on that. You can see what we've done at the back here. If you come round to the back, I'll swing the machine round to make that easier to see. It's locked in position. We can loosen off the cam, bring that in position. And while you're there, Yami, you can see this position here. So the bolt here is sitting on this pad. And when it sits on that pad, the table is at 90 degrees to the blade. If we release that and move this out of the way, we can go past 90 degrees just for a few cuts if required. We can check that we are sitting at 90 degrees to the blade to do that. With the sabres you get this reso bar. Basically, if you've got a long piece of timber that's bowed, if you run it across the fence it's going to follow the bow. Yeah. So you're using this as your pivot to do a straight line. Basically it's so that we've got relief behind, so that if you're running on a bow of a piece of timber, it's going to push the blade out because it's nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
Whereas with this, you can run the bow and then there's relief after the cut, which allows you to open it up. Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm supporting the timber on the fence. I'm pushing the timber with my finger to keep it up against the datum, and then I can feed through with my right. Because I'm right-handed. If I'm left-handed, it might be that I have the fence on the other side and push the other way.
By the way, we have canvas here.
So the first one, to try and get the squareness, take the edges off.